On this episode of Buck in the News, another report surfaces of Deshaun Jackson wanting out of Tampa. The Bucs could be in salary cap trouble, and is Mike McCarthy already set to be the next coach in Tampa? Plus, we get to the injury reports and discuss what we'd like to see happen in this Falcons game. All of that is coming your way right now.
Well, you made me weep, and you made me moan. Well, you caused me to leave, child, my happy home. But someday, baby, you ain't worry my life anymore.
Welcome to the Pewtercast. This is our Buck in the News show for December 29th for the Bucs versus Falcons game. The final Buck in the News show of the 2018 season. Also be the final Buck in the News show of the 2018 year. I am Brent Allen, your host, joined as always by my good friend Ren Daxt. Ren, how are we feeling tonight, buddy?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. Yeah, that was perfect timing.
Good timing, yeah.
I'm good. We're a little late at the start, but you just got back into town, so
yep.
Out at the Carolinas for Christmas number 2 for
the
Brent
kids.
Allen.
Yeah. No, it wasn't Christmas number 2 for me, buddy.
Well,
I'm still sitting strong at 1, so.
Oh yeah, I got you beat now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got what did I get? I got a sweater and like an Under Armour shirt and
jersey with your name on it?
No.
Some other man's name on it?
It's got some other stuff. Like I got socks because I needed socks. Like I really did need socks. And
socks with your name on them?
No. They have Nike swooshes.
Ooh.
Nike swooshes. For some reason, the Fruit of the Loom socks lost their elasticity in a month. So they're all sort of being baggy. And when they're ankle socks and baggy, that's just a terrible, terrible look.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
I think that's it.
Yeah,
I got some other stuff, but I think the Under Armour gift will go down as my my fave.
The favorite. That's cool, man. That's cool. I'm glad you got some stuff. Really am. But we are here to discuss the Buccaneers. This is our Buck in the News show for people who might be tuning in really for the first time, or maybe it's been a while. Really, the way this works is earlier in the week, we've talked all about the game from last week. And officially, it was the Buccaneers versus the Cowboys. Not Buccaneers versus the Ravens, which was 2 weeks ago. My mistake.
A bunch of times.
But we talked about the game, and the game is out of our system, but this is really the first time we've had a chance to talk about the news that has circulated around one Buck. And Ren, you and I were talking a little bit before the show. Here we are, we're on the eve of the final game of the season. And I mean, how are you feeling right now, just as far as a Bucs fan, about the season? As a podcaster, as a fan, all that kind of stuff, as we look over the edge of the finale here.
I just feel like we've been spinning our wheels as Bucs Nation, all of us who are in this together. The speculation of Dirk Koetter being fired started around week 8. And here we are 2 months later, and it feels like, we're talking about the same stuff over and over again. We're talking about Deshaun Jackson, and talking about turnovers, and, of course, Dirk Koetter. So it's just, I'm just ready for something. You asked me off air, are you ready for the season to be over? And, I am, but I still don't want it to end, because I know what comes next.
Mm-hmm.
But this constant being in limbo about, what's the next step, or, what's the thing to look forward to, or I'm just ready for the season to end so I can find out what happens with everybody. You know,
right?
Is Jameis going to be back? Is Koetter going to be back? Is Light going to be back? Are we getting a president of football operations? Like all this stuff, and nobody knows. You know, but you know, us and other podcasters and fans and Twitter and Facebook have been talking about it for like 2 months, and I'm ready for that to be over.
Yeah,
I'm ready for some answers.
Yeah, I mean, you say all that, and I mean, Ren, where I really think you are with us, I think you're voicing the opinion of, or at least the feeling of the vast majority of fans out there. You know, we're just ready to move on to the next, like whatever that is. We need to find out, because being in limbo, it's that, you know, you're waiting on the test results to come back. It's the waiting's the worst part. Like, let's move on and you know what we're dealing with so we can know how to move forward. And yeah, I'm with you. But we also know, look, we only get 16 of these games a year.
Exactly.
You know, and especially as a Bucs fan for the last 15 years, all you get is 16. There's not even been the extra one. So, no, man, I really get it. Let me ask you this. How long do you think we'll have to wait before we find out?
On Koetter?
Well, yeah, specifically Koetter, because presumably he'll be the first to go. You know, if all the rumors are true and all of that. Like, is this going to be we'll find out Sunday night? Will it be a Monday morning kind of thing? Or could they wait till, you think they'll wait till Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday like they did with Lovey? Or,
I think it's going to happen before Tuesday, but it could happen anytime before that. You know, like they could tell Koetter before the game, like, "Hey, we're not retaining you, and we're not doing this to be mean. We're doing this to be like, hey, this is your last game as the head coach of the Buccaneers. You know, do you want to call the plays? You know what I mean? It's like, hey, it's your last shot. Do what you want with it.
Right.
But, you know, you won't. And then you could see Koetter coming in after the game press conference and opening up with, yes, I've been let go. Or, you know, it won't come out till, you know, sometime Monday. But I think a decision will be made either way, either keeping him or letting him go will be out before midnight Tuesday.
Yeah. I have heard that he has already been informed. Like, he was informed like a couple weeks ago. I don't know how much stock I put that in. I mean, that comes third-hand information back to me from presumably someone in the building, but I couldn't point and tell you who it is. But presumably he already knows. I don't know how much stock I put into that. Though he might. I mean, there's certainly been a couple of things that have raised some eyebrows that he said over the past couple of weeks that, you know, could be telling. Certainly some people have jumped on it, or it just could be the way Koetter phrased some things, and people jumped on it because they're, you know, wanting to hear the news that they're wanting to hear. So, yeah, I don't know. I get the feeling it might be by Tuesday, Ren. I get the feeling it's not going to be immediate, though. You know, like I don't know that they'll be first out the gate. And, yeah, I do wonder, though, if the Glazers already have a plan, if they already have a particular hire that they've, you know, talked with. Presumably, don't they have to fulfill the some sort of interviewing rule or something?
The Rooney Rule.
The Rooney Rule, yeah. They'll have to, I guess, go through all that, maybe, potentially. So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where they go. But for the Buc in the News show, Ren, let's go ahead and get through this. The way this is structured is we talk about all the stuff that's come out, and we start by talking about the transactions, the roster transactions that have been made over the course of the week. Then we'll talk about some of the headlines, some of the speculation, a little bit like we just did with Dirk Koetter. We'll talk about the injury report as we look towards this Falcons game, and then the predictions that we make on this show are the predictive inactive. So we just kind of talk about who we might be seeing suiting up and who will be playing for where we'll go with that. So, Ren, why don't we start this off at the top, just like we always do with transactions, and looking over at Buccaneers.com. As of last week, there have been no new transactions. Moving on. All right, headlines. For the first one I want to talk about is mostly because I don't understand why this is actually a headline, Ren. Like, I don't get it. Once again, a report has surfaced that Deshaun Jackson wants out of Tampa. Where's the news in this?
There's not from us. I think every beat writer and podcaster and, everybody that writes or does a podcast that's in the building, has come out and said, like, yeah, we all know that. But apparently somebody from ESPN said it on the air, so it did its, little 8-hour cycle through NFL Twitter. And, we were like, what? Oh, my God. And it's like, yeah, like we, a lot of us have been saying that the day he signed, like, he will not be here for his third year.
Right.
So, yeah, no shocking thing. The thing that I found, I don't want to say most shocking, but it was a little like, huh. So I guess all those rumors were true. Apparently, there was an article on Joe Bucs Fan about how Deshaun's has had a crappy attitude and has been fined numerous times for being late to meetings. He fell asleep in a meeting. Then when one time he was told he was getting fined, he like kicked over like a display and like had to be held back from like getting in a physical altercation with a coach or somebody from the Buccaneers. So, all this cancer in the locker room stuff that no one could prove, it seems now that there's actually something to it. So, I know Rick Stroud wrote an article last week about how, or it might have been early this week, about how, Deshaun Jackson can be hard to coach. I didn't read it because I thought it was pretty much going to be the same what we got from him on Deshaun Jackson on the pod when he came on with us. But now hearing that, remembering the title of that article, and then seeing this blog post from Joe Bucs Fan about Deshaun Jackson, and then now he doesn't want to stay. It's like, yeah, well, so all those things you heard about him at Washington and at Philly, it's like, huh, well, I guess there was kind of something to it. But.
Yeah, I guess so. Like,
Hey, we're talking about the same thing again. I know. It's like really, what's there to say about it? Like,
right.
Like you're not shocked. Like, yeah, okay,
right. So, moving off of that, let's hit another headline. Now, this is one that for me personally, Ren, I have only actually seen the headline. I don't know if you got a chance to read the article or not, but over at pewterreport.com and SR's Fab 5 today, it was something to the effect of the Buccaneers are about to be in salary cap trouble. Big trouble with their salary cap. I've never felt like, I always knew that there was going to be a little bit of a squeeze, but I never felt like we were going to be in big trouble, especially with the increase of the salary cap and freeing up this money here from Deshaun Jackson. And, who knows what's going to happen with Quan and his contract. And I've just never felt like we were going to be in big trouble. But first of all, did you get a chance to read that? And even if you didn't, just based on that thought, like, what are your thoughts about that?
I looked at it. I didn't read it all. I sort of scrolled down to the parts that I wanted to see, that I wanted to read about. And what Scott Reynolds is saying is that, and these numbers aren't correct, so don't quote me on this, but as of right now, with the projected salary cap increase and all the Bucs who will be under contract for the 2019 season, the Bucs are somewhere like around fifth fewest in dollars.
Okay.
For cap room. And then he goes through, and that's by far, we're usually like fifth most cap room, and have been for, it feels like, since Jason Licht's got here. So it's a different, it's something we've talked about when Jason Licht got here. It's like, you want to draft well and sign your own guys. That's the way he wants to build the roster, at least financially. And now it's to the time where you're paying your own guys, and all these big contracts are adding up with Alley's and Evans, and even though James has no contract, he has $20 million against the cap. Cam Brate got an extension, of course. Then we got Jason Pierre-Paul, who's around 13 a year. Sean Jackson's 11 a year, 13 a year for McCoy. Signed Curry, signed Allen, signed Unrein. All those guys are anywhere from like 3.5 to 6 a year. So, the money's starting to dry up. But basically, what the article was here's 5 to 10 guys that the Bucs can get rid of with no salary, or most of them are no cap hit. Mm-hmm. And will free up enough space, and that moves us to somewhere like in the top 10 of cap space.
Interesting.
So basically, that's what the article was, and it was like, it was the obvious ones, like Mitch Unrein, who probably won't play football ever again. I think he let go of Bo Allen and Vinny Curry, Deshaun Jackson, obviously, and he threw in Gerald McCoy in there as well because of his $13 million cap hit. So. That's what the gist of the article was. So since, this duo of Light and Greenberg have gotten together, this is the first time where they're actually going to have to make some tough decisions on releasing players maybe they like or want to keep on the team. Mm-hmm. They're going to have to do it to be able to fill other needs on the roster.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what they do. My thing recently has been, and this is really coming off of last year, that whatever we need to have done, like Greenberg's going to figure it out. Like a lot of people worrying about, how are you going to be able to re-sign Alley and Quan and Donovan, and we got Jameis coming up soon, and last year was Cam Brate was still on the thing, and now we're looking at possibly having to re-sign Adam Humphries, and we'll need another backup quarterback. So whether that's Ryan Griffin or somebody else, we'll need that, and we've got a new cornerback we've got to try to figure out. Situation with Brent Grimes going away, and all these other things. And I've kind of spent this year just not really worrying about it. Like they'll figure it out. They'll structure these contracts in whatever way that makes it doable. Like if we need to get the guys in, we'll get them in, and the ones we don't, we'll let them go. It's.
Yeah, they have a plan. I mean, that's a big part of finance is projecting your future. So they've got a plan. It's just, like I said, it's coming down to decisions where they're like I said, they're going to have to release players that they think can help the football team. But they have to release them because there's other places they're needed, and it's all part of the plan. You can't keep everybody.
Right, exactly. So moving on, this one coming out, it's talking about Dirk Koetter again, comes out of his final radio show of the year, and it's literally the very last thing he said. And I was not listening to it, but as soon as it happened, I got like 3 messages about it of people like drawing my attention to it. And I was actually I was on the road coming back from the Carolinas when all this happened. But Koetter signs off his final thing saying, "Hey, listen, whether I'm here or not, I'm always going to be a Bucs fan."
Yeah. Casey sort of gave him, and I listened to the show this week. And there were I wouldn't say quite a few, but a handful of people that called up and, were, hey, I hope you get to stay around, coach, type of deal. He kind of gave a chuckle every time. He's like, well, thanks. But but Casey set him up. She's like, is there anything, you want to say to Bucs fans but she didn't, it wasn't as your last show ever as head coach of the Buccaneers. It was just your last show of the 2018 season. And that's what he said was, I like the way the show's gone. I like talking to the fans. It's important to me. I like getting the information out there. The way we set this show up, I like a lot. But sort of the theme of the show had become, especially near the second half of the show, had become, hey, I hope you're back next year, coach, or hey, you've done a good job, you're getting a raw deal, or hey, your defense stunk, and our offense is great, I hope you stay. So it sort of became the theme of the show, and he just finished off with that was, that line he says about it's a business and it's a production base. If you don't, if you don't win, you don't stay. We all know that. We knew that going in. So it was sort of like he was just kind of buttoning up the whole show. It's like, if I'm here next year or not, I'm always going to be a Bucs fan. And but he said other things about, how he liked the show and talking to fans and how he liked the fans and, he liked the way the show was set up and things like that. It wasn't just, hey, coach, you got anything to say? And he just didn't go.
Right.
Well, if I'm here or not, I'm still a Bucs fan. See you later. It wasn't quite that dramatic.
So what you're saying is, taken in context of everything else, it really wasn't him hinting, hey, I'm not going to be here next year.
Right. Yeah.
That could still be the case. It just that's not necessarily something to.
He didn't out himself.
Right. To pull from that. So, all right. Well, that's interesting. I'm glad you cleared that up because that literally is I just heard the last 3 minutes of the show and that certainly I see why that raised some hairs on the back of people's necks. I certainly do. So, but
and some of the tweets people were I shouldn't say people, like media. Some of the media guys were putting out. It's like, a fan calls in and asks, says, "Coach, I hope you're back next year." And Dirk Koetter just chuckles, and that's the whole tweet. And it's like, that's not what. Yeah, that's what happened, but it wasn't. But it's just, I don't know. It was just, I thought that some of the media coverage of that last show was a bunch of garbage. Was the way they were putting their own spin on it, either make Koetter look like an idiot, or that he didn't care, or he already knew he was fired. It was a bunch of. It was just It was a little bit of frustrating of an hour there, but whatever.
I can understand that. There's oftentimes national media will post something, and they say, "Oh, so and so stat is this, this, and this," and Jameis Winston's stat is this, this, and this, and that's all they say. But they set it up to infer something about usually how Jameis is not a good quarterback, or how They're not actually saying something. They're just putting something out there, but leaving it for people to see. And you naturally
better than Jameis.
Yeah, you naturally infer that from what they're saying. And when you call them on it, they're oh, I didn't say it. I just put stat out. Just reporting stat. And you're like, stop it. Just stop it. You know what you're doing. Stop it. So I get what you're saying. So speaking of Dirk Koetter, though, Ren, let's turn the page just a little bit. Well, sort of. We're that whole thing, he's going to be gone. A lot of shows, a lot of fellow podcasts. We have not done it on this show, but a lot of our fellow podcasts have been going through potential coaching replacements,
right? And
kind of giving some details on that and whatnot. But the report that came out, I think I saw it on Bleacher Report. Might be someone else, but I feel like I've heard this from multiple sources. Is Mike McCarthy, former coach of the Packers, has been linked to the Bucs, and if I read it right, I don't think that what they're saying is that Mike McCarthy is the Buccaneers' top guy, though I think that might be the inference. I think what they're saying is that Mike's top landing spot could be the Buccaneers. Of the places that he's been talking to, the highest one on his list would be the Buccaneers, I think is what if I'm reading it right. But linking Mike McCarthy to the Buccaneers is really the piece there. We've never really gotten to talk about it, but Ren, do you have any particular coaches that you are keeping an eye on that you'd like to see come to the Bucs, and what do you specifically think about potentially being Mike McCarthy coming here?
Well, I mean, Mike McCarthy being linked to the Bucs, what does that mean? The Glazers called his agent and goes, "How much does he want a year?" And then hangs up the phone. It's
right.
Like you said, you read it, you still don't know what it means.
Mm-hmm.
So Mike McCarthy is going to be linked to every coach out there is going to be linked to somebody or linked to everybody, especially when you're as winning of an NFL head coach as Mike McCarthy is. Yes, you will be linked to almost every opening out there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as what I personally think about Mike McCarthy, I'd have to do a deeper dive. I mean, his winning percentage is off the charts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's gone to the playoffs a bunch of times. He's also won the Super Bowl, but he's had 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks back to back. You know, he started with Brett Favre, then he transitioned to Aaron Rodgers. So if you only got 1 Super Bowl and you've missed the playoffs the past couple of years, and you got Aaron Rodgers in his prime, how good of a coach really are you? You know, it seems that Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers Green Bay fans and Aaron Rodgers have been complaining about unimaginative play calling. Like, that's something we like to cry about down here.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then again, Sean Payton was, you know, another 7-9 season from on his way out, and he's probably had the best. I think the Saints got robbed last year with that miracle in the Meadowlands or miracle in Minnesota, whatever it was. And then, you know, we've seen him this year. So if you give the person time, and another thing kind of rubs me the wrong way is that when you got a good quarter, like these coaches that have this longevity, what's in common? They have a quarterback, you know, and a really good quarterback. Tomlin in Pittsburgh, you know, Belichick in New England. Sorry, you got McCarthy in Green Bay. Peyton with Drew Brees. Now the Chargers flip all the time with Phillip Rivers, but I think that was previous ownership, to tell you the truth. So if you're a coach that has one of these, you know, top 5 quarterbacks year in and year out, and you get fired, that's kind of a red flag to me. So I don't know. I'd have to do a deeper dive into it. And then as far as actually coaches, once again, you know, I didn't know this question was coming. There's going to be plenty of time. Well, maybe there won't be plenty of time to talk about it. Here's where I've been on it, and this is a generalization. With the way the NFL rules are now and how the spread offenses are coming to, like, the spread offenses in college are really influencing the NFL game by spreading the defense out, get guys in space, you know, almost not quite the go with the hurry up offense, but the same style of making the field really wide and going 4 wide and all that. I would look at a college coach. Like, that's sort of where I think you should focus your search. But then, you know, if Tomlin gets fired in Pittsburgh, like, I don't think he's going to be. If there's rumors about it, like, he would automatically jump to the top of my list, you know.
Sure.
Pete Carroll gets fired in Seattle, not going to happen. Harbaugh in Baltimore, top of the list, not going to happen. But, you know, all these things aren't going to happen, probably. So, you know, and then there's some really interesting NFL coordinators out there, you know. Like, everyone's really high on the defensive coordinator for Dallas.
Is that the Richards guy, Chris Richards?
I don't know. I think so.
Yeah.
You know, and everyone's talking about the guy from Iowa State. You know, so I don't know. Like, and I'm probably not going to do a deep dive into coaches because by the time, you know, I do that and get it out there, the Bucs already might have one hired.
Yeah.
You're like, here's my list. And then, you know, as we're recording it, it comes out, you know, the Bucs have hired somebody. So.
You know, I mean, what you're talking about right there is why I don't get into mock drafts. And I know a lot of people do. I know a lot of people love them, but there's just so many different ways that they could go with this. So many different people that they could pull out. Like, I would almost rather just, hey, let's sit back. Let's wait and see who the person is. And then once we get them, then let's do our deep dive on that person and go find out about that person. You know, I'm just thankful that I am not somebody who has to be in that hiring process. And I know a lot of people love that and they love getting into that. More power to them. And the shows that want to do that, go for it. But I hear you because it's you're right. You know, the Glazers, I think it's probably a safe assumption that the Glazers have definitely made some phone calls. They've made some inquiries. I don't know if they've already had any interviews yet or not, or extended any offers to anybody. But this is not they have made moves towards looking for a new head coach. And I think they did that even last year before they decided to retain Koetter. Like, you put the feelers out there, right? You say, okay, who's available? Who's maybe interested? Who would be our short list of guys to come? You know, right. you have that. I mean, I think you said on a previous show, like, you just sort of always have that as a running list. Like,
yeah, that's like in your top drawer. Like,
yeah.
At all times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just pull it out. What? Okay.
All right. This is my short list right here. All right. There you go.
Yeah, everyone pretty much understands that's what happened last year. Is like they had maybe it was just one guy, but a couple of guys they were looking at when it didn't work out. They go, okay, well, if we can't have this one guy or these 1, 2, or 3 people, then Koetter's our fourth choice, and we have him. So here we go. Let's just let's run. Let's run and roll with this.
Yeah.
Koetter could have been their second choice.
Yeah.
Or he could have been their first choice. I seriously doubt it.
Yeah. So, well, Ren, that's going to do it as far as headlines that I have. Do you have anything maybe that you've picked up on this week? I've kind of been a little out of the pocket. It seems like this whole month, but really over this last week. I remember this happening last year too. Like, I think it's just we get to this season and life starts to happen. You know.
Yeah. It's like go because the holidays and the Bucs are this succubus of emotion
right
once again, and we're not going to the playoffs, and is the coach going to get fired? And it's just like, oh my god,
we're talking about the same thing all over again.
There we go. So something needs to happen for bring some life back into us. Not really. I mean, like, the biggest storyline that came out of one Buck was, and it's sort of been this way on social media too, is should the Bucs tank, for the draft pick? And that's sort of been it. And that's what all the interviews were like, oh, so, how are you going to get your guys to play focus with the playoffs officially out? Or, it's just the same dumb questions that they asked last year and the year before that. And they had asked for like the past 11 years because we've been out of it the past 11 years. So, no, to answer your question, sorry, I do not have any other headlines because that was the main thing.
That's been it.
I got to get your guys to play hard when there's nothing to play for.
Yeah. Well, why don't we turn our attention to the guys that will be playing tomorrow afternoon? Let's take a look at the injury report. We'll start over on the Atlanta Falcons side. The only person who really is on their report that we need to worry about is Wes Schweitzer, who is their guard. I don't know if he's a starter or not, but he did not participate all week, and he will be out. Other than that, Falcons are a full go. They had a few guys on injury report: Tevin Coleman, Julio Jones, Deion Jones, a couple of those guys. But other than that, Wes Schweitzer, and they're good to go.
Yep.
So we'll see what they do. As far as the Buccaneers go, Deshaun Jackson and Carl Nassib are both listed as doubtful, meaning they're likely not to play. Deshaun Jackson with that Achilles injury, which we saw him. Say what you want for Deshaun Jackson. He didn't just land on IR. Like, he went out and played last week and ran his routes, and he got stepped on and came off the field and then turned around and went right back on, So it looked like I thought he was going to be done at that point once he got stepped on, because it certainly looked like it hurt. But Carl Nassib with a shoulder injury, did he go out during the game last week with a shoulder injury?
Remember.
Yeah, I don't remember, but he didn't participate all week. So,
he's not going. Him and Deshaun aren't going to go.
Right. So those guys most likely will be out. We'll probably go ahead and say they will be here on the show. As far as going down the list a little bit, Devontae Bond and JPP are both listed as questionable for the game, meaning they are likely to play. They were both limited participation by Friday. Devontae Bond had an illness, so we'll assume that's a flu or cold or something. And then JPP, you got to believe his body. He's just banged up all the way around. A lot of these guys are just banged up all the way around, but he's listed with a knee and shoulder injury. But I'm pretty sure he's been on the injury report like for the last 8 weeks, on some way.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's like JPP, McCoy, and
Dotson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those guys. Yeah. They've just been living on it.
Yeah. And then speaking of JPP, or speaking of Dotson and McCoy, and we'll add Will Golston, these guys are all on the injury report, but they were all full participation, so they will go. So that's really the injury report, Ren. Looks like Deshaun and Carl will probably be out. Devontae and JPP will play. These other guys will definitely play as well. Looks like Atlanta's got a full complement. Now, Ren, I'll put it to you. I'm not asking about tanking, but what do you think this game's going to look like? These are two teams that are literally basically battling for third and fourth place in the division. And is it as simple as whoever wins gets third place and whoever loses gets fourth place? Like, is that where we are?
Somebody brought that up to Dirk Koetter on the radio show, and I think he said if we win and the Panthers lose, which is, they're playing the Saints, so we'll all be 6-11.
Oh.
So, and I think he said the Panthers would go to the bottom because they're in division. They're like 2-4.
Oh, really?
And like everyone else is like 3-3 or something like that. Everyone else would. Well, the Bucs would be 3-3. He said the Falcons would be 3-3 as well. So then it would go to another tiebreaker, which and he said like really after that I'm not really sure, and he goes, we'll just leave that up to the people that do that, which is the way I'm kind of feeling about it too. Mm-hmm. But if we beat Atlanta and the Saints beat Carolina as expected, we might be second place.
Weird.
In the division. But just because of tiebreakers, we'll all have the same record. But I don't want to win this game. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I think this might be, and I think it's just kind of the sting from last year.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was thinking about this today. How much everyone liked Quentin Nelson, and
sure.
I think he made a Pro Bowl alternate his rookie year. But think about the offensive line with like Donovan, Alley, Jensen, Quentin Nelson, and DeMar. Like how the season would have been different.
Yeah.
Just plug that.
Oh, now Ren, you're breaking your own rule here about going to the alternate timeline situation. But I get what you're saying.
That's during a game. That doesn't. Oh, he dropped that pass. That would have been a first down. They would have went down and scored. And if we would have scored there, then that's there's the 7 points we lost by. And it's like no. That happened like in the second quarter. Like, everything would have changed from there. But
I get what you're saying, and yes, I feel you on that.
But I also want to see my team win, and I also think you can find good players anywhere.
Sure.
Here's my thing. I think the Bucs are going to go cornerback in the draft.
Oh yeah,
and we can get as high as 4. But I think we can drop all the way down to like 6th or 8th maybe if we win, like down to 8th.
Mm-hmm.
To get to 4, I think Detroit and the Raiders both have to win, so good luck with that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's 2 cornerbacks, and then after that, it's sort of like, well, it depends on who you like. It's like there's 2 guys that are like head and shoulders above all the other cornerback prospects.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, well, do you like a guy that that plays the run well, or do you like that plays press coverage better or off better, or you like the length of this guy's arms, or you like this guy's height? It's all sort of just what attributes you like more,
mm-hmm.
and those guys are all just lumped together. So, if we pick up at 4, I think we can get the kid from Washington who's like, he's the guy that he's pretty QB1 or CB1 for everybody.
Yeah.
But if we drop down to 8 or 10, I don't think he'll be there. And that's just sort of where I'm at right now. But I haven't looked at it enough. There's not really a guard up there
mm-hmm.
That you can take to fill in for Caleb Benenoch. Plus, we got Kappa. And then I don't really want to take an offensive tackle that high because one, I'm not really sure if there's any worth that high of a pick.
Mm-hmm.
But the top end of this draft is like really heavy on defensive playmakers. Like there's some really good defensive tackles, there's some really good cornerbacks, there's some really good edge rushers, like there are really some other like ends, and these are all like plug and play difference makers. And if we have to go and get a tackle up in the somewhere in the top 10, it's really going to bum me out. So if we just lose, then we can go get our tackle like in the top 35, in the top of the second round, which would make me feel a lot better.
Right.
But if we drop down to 10, the cornerbacks and all the other guys might be gone. But, we got months and months and months to talk about it. Yeah.
So let me ask you this, because, I mean, we've been pretty clear on this show, and I'm going to stick by it right now. I don't want to see this team tank.
I don't want to see him tank, but I wouldn't mind, like, Ryan Griffin playing the second half, Rojo playing the second half.
Sure.
Alex Kappa playing the second half. I'm not saying pull out. Like, the defenders don't want to pull out.
Right.
Right. And, there's no way to pull out. And then, and then, okay, so maybe you rest Mike Evans to see what you got in, like, a Watson and run with sort of like a Godwin, Watson, Bobo, Wilson trio. I could see that. I wouldn't have a problem with that. But, like, but I just don't want them to tank right off the start where it's like, they all play one series. It's like a preseason game. Everyone plays a series, and then you don't recognize anybody on the field anymore.
Right. I'll be interested to see what they do. I mean, because
they're not going to. Koetter said they're not.
They're not going to what?
Do that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're playing. They're playing their boys.
They're playing to win. Yeah.
They're playing to win, and if there's a big lead, then you might see Ryan Griffin, or if they're losing by a lot, then you might see Ryan Griffin. But the plan is not to, put Ryan Griffin in just to put him in. Yeah.
So that said, what I always want to see our team win. And I would like to see the team win tomorrow. I'll be there. I'd like to see them win final game of the year. But I would not cry. It would not kill me. I wouldn't go into the instant cast tomorrow night like pissed off or sad or dejected or apathetic or lost for words if we lost tomorrow either. Like
it's like a win-win. If we win, we win. If we lose, we win.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. I think that's a good way to look at it. Well, Ren, as we turn the corner here looking at this game, you already mentioned a couple of people. Why don't we take a look at our potential inactives for tomorrow, and we'll get out of here and get to the game. So we need 7 of them. Nobody is officially listed as out, but I do know that you and I have both kind of said Deshaun and Carl Nassib will both be out. So who do you got going inactive for tomorrow?
Let's see. We got Sean, Carl Nassib, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Nacho.
Yep.
I'm going with Shaw, Tanner Hudson, and oh god, what's that defensive lineman?
Ledbetter. Yes, Jeremiah Ledbetter.
Yes, that's him.
Yep. You named everybody on my list as well.
Really?
You did.
Aha! First.
Yeah, we're in lineup with that. I thought about Justin Watson. He was inactive last week, but with Deshaun Jackson being out, there's no reason to.
He'll be up.
Yeah, he'll be up. And then outside of that, I mean, these are just the extra guys we have.
Yeah,
like
half of those. Yeah, like Fitzpatrick, you can switch him out for Griffin. Nacho, I don't think has been active for a game. I don't think.
I want to say he was active for like one game earlier this year.
When they had like the Vinny Curry,
Vin Curry, Gerald McCoy, I don't think JPP was out for a game, but like half our defensive line was like destroyed for a week or two, and I think he was in then. That's when we signed him.
Right? Yeah. So like I said, Jeremiah Ledbetter, Tanner Hudson. We thought the other guy, Ecklenberg,
Ernsberger, Donnie Ernsberger,
the creator of Facebook. But apparently he's more of a fullback, and Hudson's more of a pass catching tight end.
Yeah.
So that's why
Ernsberger is going to get it to fill in for Alan Cross.
Exactly.
Being on IR.
Exactly. So, yeah, this one seems pretty easy. I think we're going to nail it this week.
All right. Well, man, I'm with you on that 100% down the line. So, all right, Ren, that's going to do it, man. That's going to wrap up our final Buck in the News show here of the 2018 season. We'll head into the finale game, Buccaneers versus Falcons. We will be back. The plan is we'll be back. We'll have one more instant cast for the season as well. That'll be Sunday night, 10 o'clock. You can join us live on YouTube and on Mixler. You can call in, talk to us about the game, talk to us about the season, talk to us about where we go from here. We'll certainly be on Koetter Watch for sure. I think the murkier one is going to be Jason Light and what happens with him, whether he gets retained or whether they let him go as well. So certainly going to be an interesting next week or two here around Tampa Bay and in Buccaneer fandom. So we'll be with you and we'll talk about what the offseason looks like as we come up soon. And coming out really soon, guys, be on the lookout for it. The Pewtercast, the third annual Pewtercast award show that is coming out. Nominations. I think all the nominations are in, Ren. We just got to set them and get all of that out so we can let people start voting in that as well. So with that said, Ren, why don't you tell the folks out there where they can find you on the internet?
Best way to find me is on Twitter at Rendaxt, REN_DAXT. I'm always down to talk some Buccaneers football. But if you don't want to put your question on blast, you can slide in my DMs, and we can talk Buccaneers football there as well, too.
Everybody take a drink. And if you guys want to get in touch with me, you can find me at Brent Allen Live across all the social medias. And you can follow the show at The Pewtercast on Twitter and on Facebook. Shoot us an email to thepewtercast@gmail.com. And if you want to join the growing group of patrons who are supporting the show, you can find out more about that at patreon.com. Well, Ren, that's going to do it for us, buddy. So we've got one more game. We'll talk to everybody tomorrow night at 10 o'clock. We'll see you guys then.
One more announcement.
One
more announcement.
It's
not really an announcement. I just want to sort of plug the upcoming show on Tuesday, which will be after the
our Final Thought show. Yeah,
our Final Thought show. We're going to have Rock Riley on, who's been a long time radio personality on Sports Talk Radio here in the Bay Area, and he was the one. And we'll get this straight, but it seems to me that he's the one who has some inside information that the Glazers have been looking at a football operations guy. And that guy is going to decide whether or not Jason Light is staying as a GM.
Okay.
And people have been digging around, and no one can find anything, I guess, adverse to this, this thing that Rock has told about and got some inside information. So we're going to have him on Tuesday. We're going to talk about that subject. We'll hear it from straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak, and he'll tell us that story, and then we'll ask him questions, about what he thinks and going forward. By that time, I'm assuming Dirk Koetter will be gone, but Jason Light will still be here.
Interesting. Should be very interesting to find out what happens. I can't wait for that. Ren, good get as far as that. I know we've been looking at Rock Riley really since the preseason. Since our training camp days. So
he turned us down 243 times.
Yeah, and finally he couldn't get away from us. So anyway, so that's cool, man. That's cool. It should be a very, very fun show. That show will release Wednesday morning, so you guys can certainly be on the lookout for that. But until then, guys, we'll close it out as always. Go Bucs.